The following is a land acknowledgement from Art New York. We would like to take this time to acknowledge that, wherever we're currently located on Turtle Island, otherwise known as North America, we are in occupied territory. Art New York's membership in the 5 boroughs of New York City operates on the unceded ancestral land of the Lenape, Wappinger, Canarsie, Rockaway, and Matinecock communities. We want to honor and celebrate all of these Indigenous communities, their elders past and present, as well as future generations. We also want to take this time to acknowledge that after there was stolen land, there were stolen people. We want to honor the generations of displaced and enslaved people that build and continue to build the country we occupy today. Since we are gathered today in virtual space, let's also take a moment to consider the legacies of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We're using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. We invite you to join us in acknowledging all of this as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, anti-racism, and allyship. Thank you. The virtual part of the land acknowledgement was written by Adrian Wong of Spiderweb Show in Ontario, Canada. To learn more about whose land you are on, visit native-land.ca. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure to see you here today. I know many of you, and I'm really looking forward to you learning more about our program with SeaChange. I'm going to give a very quick overview and then pass it to my colleague, Minji Kim from SeaChange Capital to facilitate today's presentation. Before I do that, I want to say a big thank you to SeaChange Capital and particularly to Minji. A little over a year ago, this partnership fully launched, and that is 30 years after Art New York began its first cash flow loan program. Our first program, and I think that's referenced here on this slide, was initially funded by the Mellon program, the Mellon Foundation. Art New York ran that program for many years. And then following the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and the beginning of my tenure, we entered into this really supportive partnership with SeaChange to expand capacity and better serve the folks who were both interested in taking a loan as well as those who ended up doing so. Working with SeaChange has been an incredible learning opportunity for me, for the Art New York staff, and I think for all of the folks who have participated in this loan program. SeaChange takes a very human-centered approach to their work that's really feels very aligned with Art New York's approaches and our values. So this is a deep and an important partnership to us. I'm really happy that we could present this webinar today and for all of you to both see this partnership in action and most importantly, to learn more about this program and how you might be able to apply for it and to get to know Minji a little bit today. I encourage you to ask questions during the Q&A. As Nikki said, you can use the chat function for that, and we'll also facilitate an opportunity for you to come on mic. And if you're not comfortable having your screen recorded, you can just turn your camera off. But please ask questions. Any question you might have might also be a question that somebody else has, so don't be shy. And we'll also include some contact information in the end. So if things come to you after, or if you would prefer to ask a question by email, we encourage you to do so that way. We want people to know about this program, so please share this with your colleagues. And we want you to fully understand it. So again, ask questions and get in touch with us. All right, that is enough from me. I will turn it over to my colleague Minji Kim from SeaChange Capital. Minji, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Risa. And we really feel the same way about our partnership with Art New York. It's been such a great run since launching the fund last year. So just want to say thank you to Risa and also Talia. I wanted to sort of start off with some details about SeaChange before we get into the loan fund. So we are also a 501c3 based in New York. And our mission is to support other nonprofits going through complex financial or organizational challenges. And we do this through a couple of ways. First, by making one-time grants to support what we call long-term collaborations between two or more organizations. And this could be a merger, a joint venture, or sharing back office resources. And if you're curious about this side of our grant making work, please reach out to me separately, and I'd be happy to connect you with my colleagues that run this work. The program that I help run at SeaChange is our loan making work, which started back in 2013. And we make impact first flexible loans to nonprofits to meet various needs, including working capital, real estate related, such as acquiring a program space, renovating it, or developing it. And of course, bridge loans to provide much needed cash to carry out your programs or a particular project while awaiting the arrival of the committed funds, like a government grant, for instance. At SeaChange today, we manage 6 different loan funds, with the most recent one under management being the New York City Bridge Funding for the Arts. And one final program is what we call analysis and advice, which often has to do with analyzing large volumes of data to produce helpful observations or advice around an issue that one or more nonprofits might be facing. And these are often provided on a pro bono basis. And one of the recent works that we've done include analyzing contract registration delays in the early childhood education and the child care sectors. So that's a little bit about SeaChange. And next, I'd love to share an overview about the NYC BFA. And the goal of this fund is to provide short-term below-market cash flow loans to New York City nonprofit theaters to the arrival of defined sources of payments. And potential repayment sources that are being bridged could include an AEA bond that you're expecting to be returned after your production, could be government contract reimbursements, or also committed grants from foundation funders. And at the time of application, we ask that organizations come to us with a good grasp of the total amount of each expected repayment source and also when you expect them to arrive. In terms of eligibility, we're accepting applications from registered 501c3s that are organizational members of A.R.T New York that are in good standing. And then one asterisk here is that we've accepted a couple of, received a couple of applications from fiscally sponsored programs that do not have their own EIN. And unfortunately, at this time, we're unable to accommodate those requests unless the fiscal sponsor is able to fully guarantee a potential loan. But in any case, if you think you have a good case for a loan and would like to discuss with us, please feel free to come to us. I'd be happy to chat with you. In terms of the loan size, the maximum loan size is $50K, and the loans can be outstanding from between 6 to 12 months. And if your repayment source arrives earlier than expected, you're fully free to repay the loan at that time and before the maturity date at no additional cost. The interest rate is between 5 to 7%, which is determined based on our credit evaluation and discussions. And a closing fee of 1% of the loan amount will be due at closing, aka when we disperse the loan funds to you. And finally, many of our loans are secured by a partial or full guarantee. Oftentimes, this means that a foundation funder of the borrower or one or more of its board members will basically promise and guarantee that in case the nonprofit is unable to repay the loan for some reason, they will step in to repay the loan themselves. And if this option is unavailable, borrowers have also provided us assurance letters signed by their funders, stating that the funder's committed future grant funding could be used by the borrower to repay a loan from the NYC BFA. And these sources of collateral, or what we call credit enhancements, are discussed and evaluated with us on a case-by-case basis. during the application process. And finally, the link to the application is here, but you can also find it readily on the A.R.T New York or the SeaChange websites. Next up, I wanted to take some time to basically clarify what the fund is intended to address and what it's not, what it wasn't designed to address, which will hopefully help guide your application and planning process. First of all, the fund is intended to help your organization address a cash flow issue created by a timing challenge. For instance, let's say you've received an award from a government agency or secured and executed grant funding agreement with a foundation, but the money is coming in several months later than when you actually need the funds to carry out the work. This would be a great use case for a loan from the fund as it addresses a true timing need. On the other hand, the fund cannot make a loan to cover an unexpected gap in the budget from a grant that fell through or got reduced for some reason. It also can't be made to cover an organization's structural deficit. The fund also cannot provide emergency working capital if there's no clear path to repayment. For instance, let's say your organization started a new capital campaign to raise funds to replace an old equipment in your theater. In this case, we can only consider a bridge loan if you can show to us that you raised a certain level of commitments that are either equal to or greater than the amount of the loan that you're seeking. Finally, we're unable to consider a request if the organization is seeking a loan to replace an existing high-cost loan from a traditional bank, for instance. And finally, really quickly, I wanted to chat about what helps our process. And first and foremost is transparent and quick communication. Always very helpful, in addition to providing documents that we request on a timely manner. And I will say that our process is much simpler than that of a traditional bank. But if you, for some reason, don't have any of the documents or some of them that we're looking for, just feel free to let us know that so we can chat about it, and because there's usually another way for us to answer our questions. Finally, having a supportive board of directors is very helpful. And one of our final steps of evaluating a loan is meeting with a board member to go over some questions, and ensuring that a board has a good grasp of the implications of taking on a loan can be very helpful and gives us additional confidence. And then in the next slide, wanted to highlight some high-level statistics of our activities to date. So since August 2023, we've closed a total of 11 loans for a total amount of $357,000, with an average loan size of $32K, which is slightly below our maximum loan size of $50K. Loans were as small as $2.5K to the maximum size of $50K. And today, 8 out of the 11 loans have been fully repaid. And I wanted to highlight that this is really the beauty of the fund, because with the return capital, we're able to make new loans to other theaters in need. And many of the repaid loans were also returned to us earlier than the expected timeline. And again, here, we don't charge any prepayment penalties. Once you're ready to repay, we're more than happy to close out the loan for you. And all of our current borrowers are in good standing, which we super appreciate, all of their good communication. We ourselves are a very small team, so we always appreciate borrowers that make the job easier for us. This is the last slide before we jumped into the Q&A session. I just wanted to briefly share an example of a past borrower of the fund, Pioneers Go East Collective. Pioneers Go East, in short, had secured multiple grants to fund their fall 2023 program. However, because the grants were set to arrive months later, this created a need for them to bridge this cash flow gap for 6 months. Here, the NYC BFA made a $40,000 6-month loan to support Pioneers Go East with this cash flow challenge, and the loan was fully secured by a guarantee from a board member. In terms of the outcome, the anticipated grant funds or in this case, the defined repayment source, arrived a couple months earlier than expected, which allowed Pioneers Go East to repay our loan 2 months before the scheduled maturity date. And just lastly, I just want to give a quick shout out to John Marco at Pioneers Go East and the rest of their team, who are really easy to work with and made the process a breeze for us, providing all the documents and information on time, and also being very respectful and communicative throughout the entire process. With that said, that's all I had prepared for today. Like Risa mentioned, hoping to get a lot of questions. And if you're shy or come up with questions after this webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via email.
Thanks so much, Minji. That was really great.
Yeah.
Folks, as you see, this really is the partnership that is leading the fund is meant to really exemplify the way the fund should support a broader community need. We fully acknowledge that there are so many factors that could impact your cash flow, including, again, those delayed equity bonds, very slow government procurement timelines, and just misalignment of sort of grant award periods with your own production calendars. And we hope that this program is one crucial tool to help you make your way through those kinds of challenges. And it can't be overstated that timely repayment and a good use of this program supports other companies in doing so. And I'm really proud of both the good standing and the early repayment that's been here. But again, we also understand the challenges, and we hope that this program can help sort of offset some of what you may be going through. Again, I'll stop talking. We'd love to hear questions from any of you. And if you do have a question, you can type it in the chat, or you're also welcome to use the raise hand function. Great. We have a question here. What is the average timeline of application to, it says grantee process. I think what you mean is probably like the disbursement of the loan. Minji, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think on average, so far it has taken roughly a month to a month and a half from the point of intake, which is our first call with you, up until dispersing the loan itself. So I think it'd be good to, if you want to be conservative, maybe plan out for at least 2 months. Great question, though. Any other questions?
I'm going to put a link to the program in the chat so folks can also look at it on their own and inquire through the application link or with either Minji or myself directly.
Yeah, and I think folks may have more questions just naturally as you're working through an application or preparing for it. So as you work through it, if you have any questions, I am a good point of contact. So please feel free to just email me.
And I suppose, Minji, we should not be surprised there weren't a lot of questions because the presentation was very thorough. So we don't need to take up. Oh, I just put it there. Playwright folks. I just threw it in the chat. So yeah, we don't need to take up too much of anybody's afternoon. I'll make one more call for questions using the chat or the raise hand feature. And while we're waiting for that, I'll just remind you that in the next few days, this webinar will get captioned and published on YouTube, and Art New York will share that out with all of you and with the rest of our members. Great. Well,
Awesome.
Thank you, Nikki, for coordinating. Thank you, Minji, for your partnership and for this excellent presentation. And thank you to all of you who were here today for your interest. And we hope to hear from you about the program. We'd love to give you more information and help you if we can. Thanks so much, folks. Have a great week. Take care.